What's something that slowly damages people's mental health without them noticing? Story 1. Not sleeping enough hours and being in a relationship that is not healthy, even more so if there is some type of violence. Answer. Not sleeping enough hours. I can't stress this one enough. Chronic sleep deprivation will test even the strongest of people. It is terrible for your health, and patients that don't sleep are always way worse off than those that do. I just sat for a guy who has a pattern. If he sleeps, he is coherent enough to discuss plot points of John Wick movies on TV. 36 hours with minimal sleep, he can't even answer basic questions about himself. It's a jarring difference. Story 2. Working OT week after week and never taking any of your PTO. We have a couple of guys where I work who are the I never take vacations type. They're so fudge stressed out and fragile. Every little setback breaks them. Their stress levels are so high that they've developed physical symptoms as well. One of them told me, I'd work 7 days a week if they'd let me. I'm going to have a good retirement. If you live that long, pal. Answer, I was like this once. I am only 24 and still a spring chicken in my career. But after a rough breakup and what I still describe as the loneliest time in my life, I became such a workaholic. I think I just wanted to be useful to something, to use my energy on something to hopefully keep the mental health crisis away for a day longer, and it does always catch up to you. Always. I eventually broke down at work due to deadlines catching up on me. Turns out when you're mentally unwell, your idea of how productive you are goes to shite. When my only outlet was work, and work failed, the entire ship started to sink. It was rough, but I keep my work at an arm's length now. It's distraction plain and simple. I'm the type of person who loves a project in the works. I love having something I'm working towards or planning for. But after that breakup, I was lost for that. I'm guessing other people who are prone to this have a similar thing where they have to have something happening in life. Sitting still isn't an option. Now, I'm more in the camp of sitting still, though. It's nice to watch the world go by. Story 3. Actual gaslighting. The word is thrown around so often. It's not a lie or a different viewpoint. It chips away at you over time, slowly empties your brain of who you are, and replaces you with who they want you to be. If you do not have an outside support system to challenge it, you don't know that it's happening. Answer, I went through a pretty traumatic breakup, discard, about a year ago, and I just now discovered actual proof of gaslighting. It was about something small, but is an example of the way he treated me overall, regarding deeper issues as well. Truly gave me the chills when I realized it. It was the AC in my car. For years, we shared it, and every time I got in it, I noticed the AC system was turned off. It wasn't an issue, I was just curious about why and asked if he was turning it off for some reason. He said no. I kept noticing it and asked a few more times. He started getting angry and saying I was delusional and taking pleasure in accusing him of random things. I conceded and said, maybe you're right, it must just turn off on its own. I realized recently that over the course of the year we've been apart, it's never happened again. The AC is reliably on whatever I left it set to. It's never off when I turn my car on. He wanted me to believe I was unfairly accusatory towards him, so I would feel less sure about bringing up issues that actually mattered to me. And it worked. Story 4. Trying to improve after you've passed burnout. You will end up doing more damage to yourself. People forget that the body needs adequate rest. Take a day to just rot, get some water, go outside, get some sleep, and then get back to whatever you're doing. Story 5. An abusive partner. I had no idea how unhappy I was till about 90 days after I removed her from my life. Then, sometime later, in a relationship with a sane lady, I was sitting watching some nerdy documentary when I noticed her standing behind me and to my left. I quickly snatched up the remote and changed the Chanel. She asked M3 why I was so jumpy about it. I told her I didn't want to be caught watching stupid shoot. She said, well, it's a doc about hydrology, not kiddie adult content. That's when I realized the depth. Answer: yeah, that kind of conditioned responses take a long time to disappear. Even after taking time to heal or having found a decent, sane partner, I often jump up off the couch when I hear my current partner approaching, who wouldn't belittle me for something like resting, but is what my nervous system it's used to from my former partner. Oh, and jump scares. Even in my own home, still get startled for no reason when someone comes in the room, regardless of knowing I'm completely safe now. I feel you. It'll be fine eventually. Story 6. A toxic parent that does all the basics: food, shelter, no physical punishment, but has zero interest in your life and keeps saying everything is your fault. It's only now I'm seeing the sheer breadth of damage my mother did. Answer: oof, this hits hard. It's hard describing to people the damage you have to work on when your parent wasn't necessarily a textbook bad parent. Like, yeah, a lot of kids had it way worse. We didn't go without food. I wasn't beaten or given abnormally severe punishments. She didn't scream at me or anything. She just wasn't a mom. She was an adult in my household who begrudgingly ensured we had the basics. Story 7. Perimenopause. It's intrusive, it's debilitating, it's just flat out awful. You don't realize what is happening because nobody has talked about it till recently. I'm here to talk about it until I'm blue in the face. Story 8. Always telling PPL yes, always being as available as possible. Some PPL need to hear no. Some PPL need to hear get TF away from me. Story 9. Substances, adult beverage, loneliness, and living with a human parasite that slowly sucks the joy out of your very essence. My ex-wife. Story 10. Not being able to walk around your neighborhood. That can be lack of access to anywhere to go, or even just plain lack of safety. Story 11. Stress. It affects you physically, mentally, and emotionally. Many mystery physiological problems are often caused by stress. I once had a psoriasis rash spread across my face. Never had psoriasis in my life, but no matter what creams I used, it just kept growing over the course of about 6 months. Then I broke up with my toxic boyfriend, and magically that psoriasis rash cleared up 2 weeks later. Story 12. Addictions to things that seem harmless or you don't realize are an addiction. Energy drinks, coffee, soda, fast food, stress, lack of sleep, adult content, social media, other electronic device-related activities, television, gaming, etc. Story 13. Loneliness, aloneness, and/or surrounding yourself with people who tolerate you rather than with people who truly love you. Story 14. UTIs seriously. That scene from Succession was no joke. I have a friend, 60's wife is 10 years older, coming out the other end of one. May never be the same. Also, oral hygiene. Man, if you get an infection, that spreads. Very likely to have mental health complications. Remedy floss and hydrogen peroxide. I stayed a Holiday Inn once. Story 15. Repression. When, as an adult, you live a life where you have to suppress who you are, what you can say, and you can't never do what you want. It's basically eliminate yourself from the inside. And I'm not talking about killers, BTW. Story 16. Limerence toward another person. I didn't always know what this was, but as soon as I found out, I realized that most of my infatuations throughout my life have in fact been one-sided. Story 17. Comparing themselves to others on social media. I'm not trying to be negative, but I do feel like some families do things for show online. It's easy to think someone has a perfect life, but you never know what's going on behind closed doors. Definitely never let yourself get down doom scrolling through socials. It's never what it seems. Story 18. Masked men kidnapping residents and citizens in your country definitely makes it tough to enjoy the day. Story 19. Overconsumption of all news. A couple of years ago, I cut my habit by 90 and it improved my state of mind immensely. Story 20. Social media and news. If you think about it, you are being constantly bombarded with negative feelings. Takedown, robbery, riots, wars, disasters, etc. Most news cycle is about these type of reportings. Barely any positive content. Nothing about new scientific advancement or technology or anything cool and interesting. Anything that would make people say, "Huh, that's neat." There is no generic general news. Story 21. Lack of supportive influences. If you don't have people to support you or be there for you, it's disastrous. Leads on to isolation, trauma, emotional issues, and ultimately nowhere to turn to. Story 22. Long commutes for work. Did it for 5 years prior to COVID and did not realize how much it zapped my energy and lowered my quality of life. Story 23. Certain online support groups for mental health and sometimes chronic illness. This is not all support groups, but it applies to far too many. I've seen people feed off of one another and send each other into mental health spirals. Things that they had never mentioned experiencing, even though they had been open about everything they experienced previously, are suddenly present. One person starts to spiral due to something in their life, and it slowly spreads. But it's insidious. Join the group and you not recognize how over time your mental health slowly breaks down to find an equilibrium. With the group, this happens with chronic illness groups as well. Symptoms normalize with the rest of the group and no one really seems to notice. And unfortunately, it is often with the most severe of the group. I think part of it is an unconscious need to belong. And to be struggling less, though not consciously recognized, makes you not belong as much as you would if you were struggling the same. That isn't at all to say that these symptoms aren't real. They absolutely are, but everything is connected, mental with the physical and so on. There's a lot more to it than this too, but this is the basics. I'm sure I'll get downvoted, but I have an unfortunate abundance of first-hand experience with this. Story 24. Isolation. Self-isolating can make one a little crazy. People often feel that taking a break from the world and society improves their mental health. In the short run, yes, but best to be smart about relationships. Healthy one. To learn more and more how to attach with functional relationships to all things. Story 25. Not setting boundaries, people pleasing, becomes absolutely exhausting and can cause emotional instability due to constantly investing your energy and being on an emotional high all the time around people, usually leading to very big lows when you're alone. Story 26. A front row seat to violence in the farthest reaches of human settlement. Stop looking at the news. This is toxic information. We did not evolve to see this kind of content every day. Your neighborhood is probably safe. You can feel safe. Story 27. Having to ignore health issues that should be easily fixable. This one comes in two flavors. 1, too poor, and 2, doctors don't believe you. Often I get the swirl, we don't believe you, but we'll happily do thousands of dollars in tests just to tell you we don't know. Story 28. Living in a dirty or disorganized house, the constant chaos really wears you down so slowly it's imperceptible. Story 29. Constant criticism, being talked down to, being yelled at, sleep deprivation abuse. One day you snap. One day suddenly you can't take it for one more second. You don't care about anything but making it stop. Then you suddenly feel years' worth all at once. You look back and can't understand how you didn't see it. How slowly it got worse. How slowly you kept shrinking. How slowly you lost your light. Story 30. I've read some of these comments, and let me tell you that despite having the house dirty, not sleeping enough hours, hating my job, spending most of my free time on social media, having chronic knee pains and preferring to live in isolation, I'm having the time of my life. Story 31. Abusive relationships, all kinds, romantic, parental, friendships. They're all so taxing on the mind and body. Story 32. Lack of sleep, letting things build up or always letting things go. Lack of physical activity. Consuming too much negative media, lack of intimacy relief. Story 33. Talking down to yourself. Spent most of my life doing it, and have spent years trying to undo the damage. Story 34. Endless doom scrolling on social media, comparing your messy real life to everyone else's polished highlight reel. Story 35. Bad weather. People say they like the cold and the rain until they haven't seen the sun for a week. Story 36. Having a partner who stops being emotionally tuned in, who doesn't see you or hear you, who stops looking in your eyes. You don't realize how lonely you feel until they are gone, and then you are alone. But it actually doesn't bother you. And you realize that you felt lonelier when they were in the same room. You realize what a shell of a person you had become. Story 37. Trusting voting machines. Ireland did it right. Tried them once and melted them for scrap so no one else could use them. Story 38. Defining yourself primarily by your job. It will stress you out when things don't go the way that you think they should. Story 39. Pretending to be someone you are not. Masking for most of my life has led to some dire consequences in physical and mental well-being. Story 40. Poor diet. The weight gain can cause low self-esteem and health issues, and the malnutrition will make you weak and tired. It's hard to feel happy when your body feels like it's wasting away. Story 41. Social media, internet, and screen time. Speaking of which, I think it's time to log off for the day. Story 42. Psychiatric medications. They're meant to be temporary and people stay on them for years, myself included. Story 43. Constant busyness. I'm a firm believer that we need some form of downtime or just a few minutes of complete silence and stillness to help us process. We are constantly surrounded by noise and opinions. It's crucial to have time to think for ourselves, walk through our own lives, and view things from a lifelong perspective instead of thinking only in the moment. When I'm most burnt out, I start stepping harder on the pedal to drown out the noise around me. This puts up walls that block both receiving and giving genuine care. Story 44. Working too goddarn much. We're not meant to work like this. We're eliminate ourselves for greedy bastards. Story 45. Believing it's a strength to do without. Bragging about never having non-essentials, but even simple, inexpensive life pleasures like buying a book, spices, extra utensils, are regarded as ostentatious displays of abundance to make others feel bad rather than just enjoying oneself. When you think anything beyond the absolute necessities are wasteful and unneeded, I'm sure it's true. I don't need to go to the zoo or museum or purchase of unfamiliar vegetables to cook something new. It makes me very sad when someone brags about, I don't need all that. Yeah, so maybe none of us need this or that, but why are you proud to tell me suffered and endured so much deprivation that you believe anything beyond good quality? Essentials food, clothing, and shelters is extravagant. Having friends or a spouse feeling uncomfortable or they don't belong at a fancy restaurant, upscale hotels, or specialty stores just causes me to feel enraged and grief-stricken for them. Story 46. Lack of breaks. I'm currently working more hours than I should and haven't taken a day off, as in a day for just me, no chores or anything, in 3 months. As soon as a coworker gets back from maternity leave, I'm taking 2 days off and just being me. Story 47. Social media. You know, like Reddit. My mental health has leaked down to the level of the water table. Story 48. I got bullied by a woman yesterday who said that she studied psychology and proceeded to call me strange, weird, and not normal. All because I thanked her for telling these 2 women to move out of a car parking space and they were standing in the way. People suck, so I guess for me is being myself. Story 49. Work. We work too much. Literally, we visit our house but spend more time at work. That and not keeping things tiddy at home. Because you are too exhausted after work. Story 50. Coming into work early and gradually moving Craig's desk across the sales floor by about 3 inches per day. I calculate hell be out on the forecourt by the end of the year. Story 51. Working your way up the corporate ladder. I am 10 years within the same company. Made a good, decent career looking at where I started, but I do not accept any kind of discussions anymore about potential promotion. I have seen people burning out like there is no tomorrow. The higher you go, the more pressure you have, and I'm not so sure if it's worth it. In the end, the corporate I will leave you as soon as you will be 3 weeks on a sick leave say no to free meetings or anything similar. Story 52. A narcissistic relationship, especially when they have some type of control over you. For example, a supervisor or parent. You question everything you see, hear, or do. I find myself over-explaining everything. They get in your head and make life miserable. Story 53. Toxicity, whether in your family, at work, online, it slowly erodes your self-worth and your ability to self-actualize. Story 54. Toxic environments. Toxic people, LOL life, take your pick. Especially if all you've ever known is toxic love, and all you did was move from one temp place to another, and haven't still been able to find your permanent place in life. Just high on life for right now. Story 55. Hearing deficit. Hearing loss in our loud society is inevitable and insidious. Over time, it causes voluntary isolation as people self-exclude from social interactions. Those with whom they interact begin to exclude them from conversations and activities because it becomes difficult and often embarrassing to try to communicate. Often, the person who is hard of hearing doesn't think it is a problem and may be defensive if told they need a hearing aid. Ultimately, these leads to a long, lonely slide into clinical depression and dementia. Story 56. Trigger warnings. I used to ask my friends and family to give them to me, and I relied on them to determine my media consumption. The unintended effect was that I came to think of myself as mentally fragile. I grew more afraid, bothered triggered by things rather than less. I also grew more fearful of environments where I didn't have that sort of control over what I was exposed to, which contributed to worsening agoraphobia. Eventually, I chose to reverse course. I asked my family and friends to not warn me anymore, and I chose to believe in my own capacity to handle the difficult feelings that certain topics might trigger in me. Over time, it became easier to rejoin the world because I was no longer attempting to establish a ring of mental safety around myself that, let's face it, was never going to hold in the first place. I understand trigger warnings come from a well-intentioned place, but treating people like they are made of glass makes people believe they are made of glass. It's as simple as that. Story 57. Worrying all the time. It's a never-ending cycle that I see so many folks do, and they think it helps them stay on top of things. It doesn't, and they often self-medicate because they can't make that feeling go away any longer. Worrying looks as though you're scared and aren't sure of what you're doing. It's okay to be afraid of stuff, and I'll help you find healthy outlets, but ultimately you have to want to change and do the work involved. Story 58. Negativity. Not thin enough, not rich enough, not as good as my siblings, not what my parents expected of me, not pretty enough. The list goes on. Until you love yourself, mentally beating yourself up will do nothing to improve self-esteem. Life is too short. Let it go and live your life the way you want to, not how someone else thinks you should. Story 59. Being on screens too much. I'm working on my own issues with it, but just opening up a book when I wake up is already helping me a lot. Story 60. Removal of all precautions in an ongoing pandemic so that folks who follow the science and continue to take precautions feel gaslit. Story 61. Being bullied in a friend group where the other people enable the bully because they are scared of her. Story 62. Dental issues, sinus issues, social media, dating apps, texting instead of calling, digital chatting instead of meeting up, gaming, sleep deprivation, lack of exercise, bad diet high in sugar, mold in house, lacking goals and fulfillment. Story 63. A toxic workplace. I had no idea while I was there, and after I left and ended up at a great workplace, 7 years now, I was the worst version of myself when I was there and didn't even realize it. Story 64. Constant negativity. Watching it, being around it, hearing it, seeing it, experiencing it at work, home, with friends, social media. After a while, you get sucked in, and then you become negative by default. You lose hope, you lose any chance of positivity, and everything just seems bad all the time. Story 65. This has happened to me before, and it affected me in ways I didn't realize mentally and emotionally, but thinking about the past too much. Story 66. Dislike. Because it is nothing but fear, jealousy, and envy. All three are bad for a person's health. Be happy. Love is the key. Dislike stinks and eats at your very small existence. Story 67. Doom scrolling. Each little hit of outrage or bad news chips away at your baseline happiness without you realizing it's happening. Story 68. Not getting sleep can ruin your mental health so quickly, and people don't think of it when they're young and want to go out with friends and loved ones. Go to sleep, people. Story 69. Being extremely emotionally attached to someone without them knowing and settling for the bare minimum from said person. Story 70. Negative comments and abuse from people online. Cyberbullying really does wear you down. The founder of the YouTube channel and rescue service, Save a Fox, recently took her own life because of it. Story 71. In my experience constantly smoking plant substance, I know so many people who swear they're better for it. But honestly, once I quit, my anxiety cleared up. I feel more energetic and able to clean, and I can actually remember shoot. Story 72. News sites and their push notifications even more. Negative emotions sell clicks and therefore money, at the cost of your mental health. Story 73. Being around people that are mentally exhausting to be around, too many to say, but I'll give few examples. Negative coworkers, overly political people, people that only talk about themselves, people that only talk about their accomplishments, and the list goes on. Be around them long enough and you will start to dislike everything. Story 74. Hustle culture with no rest. Stress also goes hand in hand with this. Rest is so important for mental, physical, emotional health. Story 75. Relationships, most don't realize that over time, if love is reciprocated the right way or via their love language, it slowly drains them until it is abusive and causes such emotional damage that each relationship is the same or worse than before. Story 76. Constantly being online. Social media can distort reality and make it seem like everyone's life is great and beautiful when one's own life is bland in comparison. Story 77. Contrary to what a certain crowd of single people might tell you, loneliness. And it's accelerated when you see so many happy couples. Story 78. Negative self-talk. We think we're motivating ourselves, but it's actually emotional abuse from ourselves. Story 79. Parasocial relationships with celebrities, internet personalities, and corporations to the point that you're fighting for their honor online.